and I'm proud to represent the 39th House District in Montgomery County. And I'm also the first and only socialist elected to our state legislature. And I'm here to not just stand in solidarity with this event, with folks who have helped to organize it, but to remind you all that it is my job, it is our job, it is our collective job to ensure that I am not the last socialist that is elected to our state legislature and to every single level of government in this country. Am I right? All right. Because we have to ensure that the future that we want, the future that is possible, a future that we are willing to organize for, we have to ensure that we are electing folks, we have to ensure that we're electing socialists to office so that they are then championing the policies on behalf of our communities. And so it was really good to be here this afternoon. I had an opportunity to walk around and to look at some of the tables. And I want to first give a shout out to our Graduate Student Union. That can you all give it up for the Graduate Student Union that's over there, the TRU? All right. Let's give it up for the Baltimore Abortion Fund. Let's give it up for the Queer Community Response. Let's give it up for Glisten and the Rainbow Library. Let's give it up for Speak Out Socialists. Let's give it up for Socialist Alternative. Let's give it up for the Greater Baltimore Democratic Socialists of America. So look, I will be very brief because I do have to head back to our state capitol. We have session tomorrow and we just wrapped up a budget. And we had to make some hard decisions that included not just efficiency cuts, but something that I think is necessary, which is raising taxes on the wealthy, corporations, and closing tax loopholes in our state. Because what we know is that we live in the richest state per capita in the union, and we live in the wealthiest country in human history. And this idea that they want us to accept that we don't have the revenue, we don't have the resources to ensure that unhoused people have the affordable housing that they deserve. They want us to believe that our kids can go to school and be hungry and we can't provide free school meals. They want us to believe that we cannot invest in public transit, and those who do not have gasoline cars and don't wish to invest in it, but we can certainly invest in transit nonetheless. And they also need to understand that we got to take care of our seniors. We got to ensure that we're investing in housing that keep our seniors where they live and not continue to push out low-income seniors and folks who are native, whether it's to Baltimore, whether it's to DC, or whatever gentrified city in this country. We got to stand up and we have to be willing to speak out, because the future that we all envision is one that we have to be willing to organize for. And so this afternoon, there are a number of organizations that you could get involved in. I'm going to remind you of the words of Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture, who said that organizing is the tool of the oppressed. And so there are several opportunities this afternoon for you to get involved in an organization or a club to ensure that we are organizing our communities, we are organizing our money so that we can ultimately organize power. Am I right? Yeah. Because the only way we beat capitalist trash is with socialist cash. Am I right? Yeah. So we have to be willing to donate to the candidates who refuse developer dollars. We have to be willing to support the candidates who refuse corporate PAC donations and special interest dollars that silence politicians at every single level of government. And we have to be willing to fight for the policies that will make our communities more democratic, because fundamentally as socialists, we believe in strengthening democracy where it exists and introducing democracy where it is not. Am I right? And so democracy looks like collective bargaining rights for graduate students at public universities. Are you willing to organize for that? Are you willing to organize for that? Democracy means fighting against all the special interests and dark dollars in our political system and ensuring that we're passing public campaign finance so that your elected officials are listening to you and not to the special interest dollars. Am I right? We also have to be willing to understand that our solidarity transcends state borders and transcends international fake borders across this world to include Palestine, to include the Democratic Republic of Congo, to include Haiti, to include Sudan, and of course, to include any country that has been the subject of U.S. imperialism. We have to be willing to not just raise our voices, but raise the consciousness of people. And that requires organizing, it requires educating, and of course it requires disrupting. Because as we know as socialists, a society that is uncomfortable with the truth will begin to hate the people that speak it. And I don't know about you, but I am committed to speaking truth regardless of who the fuck is uncomfortable. And so what that looks like, a just and equitable future, looks like reparations for African Americans in our state and in this country. What a just and equitable future looks like is every worker having the right to organize and to join a union. What a just and equitable future looks like is universal school meals in the richest state in the union per capita. What a just and equitable future looks like is us no longer being the state that incarcerates more black people age 18 to 35 than any other state in this union. Am I right? Are you willing to fight for a future that you have not seen but we know is possible? Are you willing to fight for people that you do not know? And are you willing to organize and center the voices of people most impacted by the issues that we're talking about here? And what that looks like is the indigenous and black and brown folks, Latinx, queer and trans folk, and gender non-conforming folks, women, poor and working class folks. Are you willing to center those folks in our struggle? I am so encouraged by not just the people that are here, but the work that we have ahead. Because our state and our country is going to become one of two things: what we make it or what we allow it to become. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to allow our state to become one where we do not recognize the sacrifices and the contributions of our teachers, and especially public school teachers. Pay them more. I refuse to allow us to become a state where folks seeking abortion health care cannot come here and get the services that they need without fear of prosecution. I refuse for us to allow this country to become one where fascism, where attacks on free speech, where attacks on student protesters has become the norm. That's right, it is a shame. But for the folks who couldn't be here out of fear, whether it's because of their status or whether it's because of their scholarship, we gotta show up for the folks who would have been here but couldn't. We gotta be willing to speak out for the folks who couldn't be here. And we have to be willing to challenge our imperialist government. We live in an empire, one where war has been the primary tool of foreign policy in the United States for a very long time. It didn't just start with Kissinger. Yes, I'm sure Kissinger is looking up at us right now. But U.S. foreign policy have created the problems that we see across this world, whether it's U.S. multinational corporations exploiting the instability in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, whether it's the United States destabilizing countries and democracies. We got to be honest with the kind of a government that we have, but we also have to be committed to the kind of a government that we want. And what that looks like is electing socialists at every single level of office. I want to remind you all that a majority of the issues that impact your daily lives are decided at the state and local level. Yes, we should pay attention to what our federal government is doing. Yes, we should pay attention to what Republicans and the fascists in DC are doing. But make no mistake, you got Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in state capitals all across this country, including in Annapolis. And I know this because I often fight against these same established Democrats who claim to care about certain issues and then would betray or try to undermine progressive agendas. It is not just about Republicans. It is about fighting those neoliberals who think that the status quo is what is going to get us free. As socialists, we have to be willing to step up. We have to be willing to organize in communities. And I'm not saying to parachute into communities. I am saying to do the earnest work of organizing in communities that you do not belong to. Because the future that all of us desire, the future that all of us know is possible, is only going to happen when we organize in an intersectional manner. And that means poor and working class white folks, black folks, Latinx and indigenous folks, queer, trans and non-binary folks, people with disabilities, those living with HIV, poor, working poor folks, people who are invisibilized by our capitalist system. We gotta work with everybody. Because if the goal is liberation, the same system that dehumanizes and denies certain groups' rights is the same system that is doing it to every other oppressed group. And so if you take anything away from today, just remember that we got to make sure that we're organizing at an intersectional perspective. And so I'm going to continue to be encouraged, but you got to make sure that you're organizing in the streets. And as long as you continue to do so, I will show up, and people of goodwill will show up, and people of conscience will show up, and people who want this state and this country to be better will show up, and we will lock arms. And the future that so many think is not within our grasp will be the one that all of us build. Thank you all so very much. Solidarity.
Oh yeah. So next up, we're going to have our comrades at Towson, Young Democratic Socialists of America.
No? Oh, hello. How's everyone doing today? Who here hates ICE? Who here hates our tax dollars paying for the genocide in Gaza? My name is Noah. I'm a student organizer with YDSA, that's the Young Democratic Socialists of America at Towson University. I want to talk about some of the one of the upcoming actions we have and some of the problems we've been facing as student organizers on campus. A few weeks ago at Towson's career fair, ICE was going to be a vendor. They were going to be recruiting students to deport people who have the wrong skin color, who are born in the wrong place, who have the wrong political views. We only found out about that as students because people leaked it to us. The administration hid their presence. They were there under another name, and we were only able to get them removed from the career fair because we as students took action. LASSO, the Latin American Student Organization, sent around a petition. YDSA hosted a rally, and we made it clear to ICE that they would not be welcome on our campus, that we did not want them there. But the administration has said nothing. They have not apologized. They have not taken any accountability for hiding ICE presence from their own students. We are holding a rally this Wednesday. If anyone can make it, I can give more details at the end, to demand more accountability from administration. Apart from the career fair, I think everyone here knows we're at a moment where ICE is extra dangerous. They've been made even more powerful by the current presidential fascist administration. And student organizers Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Öztürk have been arrested, kidnapped on the street for no reason other than disagreeing with U.S. foreign policy, supporting the genocide in Gaza. That being said, Towson administration has given almost no guidance to faculty and staff on what to do if ICE comes on campus. They have made no statements committing to non-cooperation. All they have done is emailed a handful of professors and told them if anything happens to contact legal counsel, and given no further guidance and promised no further protections to students. Alongside that, divestment. 10 months ago, Towson University's SGA passed a divestment resolution demanding that the Towson University Foundation divest from companies that are profiting off of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Since in those 10 months, the administration has remained silent. As far as we know from what they have told us, they have had a few meetings planning possible ways to divest, but in every instance, students have been excluded from these meetings. Information is hidden from students, and they have made every effort to not cooperate and to not divest. So this Wednesday, April 2nd at 6 p.m., Towson University at Freedom Square, that's right in the center of campus, if anyone can make it. We are having a rally. We are demanding transparency on their cover-up of ICE's involvement at the Student Career Fair. We are demanding that they commit to keeping ICE off of campus and commit to keeping students safe. And we are demanding that they are transparent about this divestment resolution and the divestment process, and that actual progress is made in stopping donations being made in our name to the IDF and to Israeli institutions that continue the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. So again, April 2nd at 6 p.m. if everyone's able to make it. Free Palestine.
I also just wanted to say we have some stuff from CASA over at the GBDSA table. We have Know Your Rights information. We have the information for the ICE hotline. If you get any confirmation of ICE anywhere in the city, anywhere in the state, call CASA and let them know so that they can get that and respond appropriately. Up next, we have our comrades from Speak Out Now.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? My name is Meg, and I'm an organizer with the revolutionary socialist group Speak Out Socialists. These past 10 weeks have been a chaotic bombardment of attacks against immigrants, trans and queer people, students, Palestinians, scientists, and the entirety of the working class. It is easy to feel like there's too much to pay attention to. This is intentional. They want us to feel panicked and reactive. Trump, with the backing and help of billionaires like Elon Musk, are making their needs clear. Their attacks are not, in fact, separate issues, but part of the same beast of capitalism that must keep exploiting us so long as it exists. They're gutting what little social welfare we have from programs like Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, and many others. This is costing thousands of workers their jobs, along with millions of people essential services like food, housing, retirement, and healthcare. They're looking to cannibalize these essential services by privatizing them for the benefit of the billionaires. They are escalating the ethnic cleansing of Gaza to expand their territory of control and their trade routes. They're stoking war with their economic competitors, including China, and they're imposing tariffs, further straining our wallets. They're attacking our most basic needs while continuing to funnel money into fossil fuels and AI programs to squeeze more pennies out of us while buffing up their war machines. At the same time, they're stoking fear and division among us to keep us isolated and powerless. Trump is illegally and indiscriminately abducting, imprisoning, and deporting tens of thousands of immigrants. They are illegally detaining political organizers like Mahmoud Khalil and Rameza Öztürk, and illegally deporting people like Dr. Rasha Alaway, who have done nothing but exercise their freedoms. The administration has attacked trans and queer people by limiting legally recognized genders, prohibiting agencies from promoting or allowing gender transitioning, and threatening trans kids' safety. Under these attacks, we've seen nothing from the Democratic Party. Some have shown weak performative resistance, like wearing pink at Trump's address. But they refuse and even denounce actual disruption of these egregious attacks. Others, like Chuck Schumer, are actively supporting the Trump administration. We should not be surprised by these responses. Like Trump and the Republicans, the Democrats serve the billionaires. The Trump administration represents a solution for the ruling class in crisis. Today, U.S. global domination is being challenged by rising capitalist powers like Russia and China, a crumbling economy, the climate crisis, and years of social upheaval from Black Lives Matter to the protests for Palestine. The ruling class needs a stronger, more ruthless state willing to execute their needs at our expense. But our society runs because of the workers who work every single day. It's the workers who know how to issue Social Security payments, who know how to provide the best health care for their patients, who know how to manufacture and distribute our goods and transport us from point A to point B. It's not the politicians or their billionaires who get to call the shots without doing any of that work. To really win against this capitalist class, we must recognize that our struggles are not isolated. We may be impacted in different ways, but we have the same attacker. Our power comes from our collective control over society opposed to this attacker. Some of these efforts have already begun here in Baltimore, like this rally today, the work of the Baltimore Rapid Response Network, and the organizations and people responding to ICE, just to name a few. But we can't stop once the attacks have subsided. So long as capitalism remains, our lives will always be threatened. And we can't use the tools of this system and their governments to change that. We must end this system and replace it with one that represents and meets our needs. This will take a revolution made up of and led by the working class, the people who make our society run today and are most under attack. A successful revolution would require the creation of revolutionary organizations rooted in the struggle of working people. It's Speak Out's goal to be part of building these organizations, and we think everyone has a role to play. If you're interested in learning more, please check out our tent and all of the other tents here. As others are saying, get involved and start doing this work. And thank you everyone for coming out here and listening. Thanks to the Greater Baltimore DSA for organizing this. We have to continue to come together. We have to bring more friends, more neighbors, more of our coworkers with us, and we have to build in the solidarity necessary to beat these attacks now and win the world that we all deserve to live in. So with that, thank you. I'll end with a little chant when I say don't mourn, you say organize. Don't mourn. Organize. Don't mourn. Organize. Don't mourn. Organize. Don't mourn. Organize. Mourn a little bit. And then organize. Thank you.
All right, next up we have our comrades at Baltimore Abolition Movement, and then we're going to take a little 5-minute break.
Abolition Movement. We are the Baltimore Abolition Movement, and we imagine a world where a connected community keeps us safe, not cops and prisons. We oppose the formation of Johns Hopkins private police force. Our opposition is rooted in Baltimore's communities, and today we demand the complete abolition of the JHPD. Under the newly won local control of policing, we demand that our city council take responsibility, question the legitimacy of the JHPD, and scrutinize the memorandum of understanding that led to its creation. If you're interested in joining the fight, you can find us at the table under the yellow canopy over there. Now, here in Baltimore, the resistance against JHPD, BPD, and ICE have deeply interconnected histories. In 2018, John Hopkins Coalition Against ICE, consisting of organizations including Students Against Private Police, the Graduate Workers Union, who is also here today, and the West Coalition, as well as other community activists emerged in opposition to Hopkins' contracts with ICE. These contracts, totaling more than $1.7 million, provided tactical medical training to ICE agents. The mobilization against these contracts led to a 5-week sit-in at Garland Hall with 3 central demands: no private police, no ICE contracts, and justice for Tyrone West. In September of 2019, after more than a year of resistance, Hopkins announced that would not renew their ICE contracts. Later in 2020, they temporarily suspended the plan to implement the JHPD. However, the West Coalition continues to demand justice for Tyrone West. Today, Baltimore Abolition Movement is rooting itself in this history of solidarity. ICE and police act as agents of systemic violence and oppression within our communities and across the country. In this moment, we recognize our fights are fundamentally intertwined, and we are strong when we stand together. Over the past few weeks, we have seen academic institutions completely abandon their students in the face of increasing ICE abductions. We've seen Columbia University allow ICE access to university housing and capitulate to demands from the Trump administration, including deputizing their security officers. Before he was kidnapped, Mahmoud Khalil appealed directly to Columbia to protect him, and they did nothing. Every week, more students are disappearing because they are exercising their right to free speech and criticizing the Israeli regime. Their universities and private police forces are not protecting them, and they will not protect us. Instead, they will surveil, violate, and repress all of us. Even just yesterday, it came out that Hopkins told their staff, both university and hospital staff, to not interfere with ICE coming in to arrest or deport people on campus and in their college. So it is not only students and Hopkins affiliates who will be impacted by the John Hopkins private police force either. It is our neighbors, our communities, and those of us that seek health care from their hospitals. JHPD's jurisdiction includes the public areas surrounding Hopkins properties, which continues to expand as Hopkins buys up more and more of the city. A private police force answering only to the university that benefits from its existence, one that has a history of inflicting unimaginable violence on Baltimoreans through destruction, displacement, and medical abuses, fundamentally undermines the sanctuary protections we are fighting for today. We, as the Baltimore Abolition Movement, stand in solidarity with the Sanctuary Maryland agenda and fully support the Maryland Values Act. We also resist the formation of a police force run by an institution that, until recently, was actively training ICE agents. We stand for the Maryland Values Act and against Hopkins undermining and undercutting all the protections that we are fighting and organizing for today. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a little break and start again in 5 minutes. All right, back to it. We're going to first have our comrades up from Federal Unionist Network. I'm sure people have been seeing that in the news and shit, so we're really excited.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Alex. I'm a GBDSA member, and I'm here to talk about the Federal Unionist Network. We are a loose network of federal workers like myself and our allies. Most of us are members of the various federal unions, although not one in particular, and we've been disappointed by the sluggish, slow response of our union leadership. So we are organizing from within to recreate fighting unions, to put the movement back into the labor movement at the federal level. And obviously my views do not represent those of my employer. It's no secret that federal workers have been under assault. Our jobs hang in the balance, our working conditions are quickly deteriorating, and our structures are creaking and on the brink of collapse. Even more importantly, these lawless attacks from DOJ threaten the vital services that every single American relies on in all parts of our daily lives. Our basic trust in the food, medicine, and products we buy. Our basic trust in the planes, trains, and cars that bring us to work. Those simple protections we have in the workplace, including the right not to be discriminated against. The parks we enjoy to escape our labors. The ability to see a doctor when we are weary and sick. The chance to educate our children and to take care of our parents. The ability to retire from our work when we grow old. The very air we breathe and water we drink is made safe through federal work. The federal workforce consists of 2.5 million workers, including over 1 million unionized workers. This week, Trump took the unprecedented step of announcing his administration will cease recognizing and bargaining with nearly all of them. A potentially fatal attack, not just to federal worker protections, but to the American labor movement as a whole. While shocking, none of this is surprising. The Heritage Foundation literally spelled out its playbook well before the election, and incidentally, its president, the ghoulish white Christian nationalist, happens to be coming to speak at Baltimore tomorrow. Shame. They believe that this executive order was their declaration of victory over the working class. We are all here to say no, this was a declaration of war. With this urgency, and with our guiding North Star of May Day 2028, we now need to stand up, get organized, and fight. Fight to protect our jobs, to protect our communities, and to protect the vital essential services that we need and deserve. The Federal Unionist Network is a brand new group, but it's growing very rapidly across the nation's federal workers and allies. Here in Baltimore, we have a very small network, but very large ambitions. Maryland has the highest density of federal workers of any state. Now is the time to pull these people in, to radicalize and mobilize these public workers. To that end, please join us on Friday at 4 p.m., that's 4-4 at 4, in front of Baltimore's Penn Station. We will of course be protesting this administration's illegal and dangerous actions, but also recruiting federal commuters and allies into our growing network. We want to build power, build capacity for future campaigns. All of our fights here share a common goal, liberation and a better life for all. We share a common enemy, the forces of order, capital, imperialism. And when we stand together in solidarity, here with one another, we can build a movement that guarantees our own safety and prosperity in Maryland and eventually around the world. Thank you.
Next up, we got our comrades at Teachers and Researchers United Johns Hopkins.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of TRUE, and I want to repeat and basically reinforce a lot of what we've already heard, starting with some names, and that's Mahmoud Khalil, Alireza Daroudi, Rumesa Ozturk, Yunso Chung, Badar Khan Suri, Mamadou Tal, Ranjani Srinivasan, more names that we continue to learn every few days. It's clear that international graduate workers and students are at the heart of the current administration's attempts to expand their capacity to weaponize deportation against people who dare to challenge this country's wholehearted support of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Just yesterday, Hopkins instructed its faculty and staff not to intervene if federal law enforcement officers arrive on campus to detain a community member. This is horrifying, but it's not unexpected. So many of these universities who trade on their wealth and their international reputations as a way to concentrate global intellectual talent within Western institutions are now abandoning these students and workers who have come here from abroad. And this goes also against the contract that Teachers and Researchers United, TRUE, has fought for and won. This contract includes clauses that prevent institutional cooperation with ICE. But it's not enough to point to a contract or, on a broader scale, a law or a right like freedom of speech or due process. We have to show up together to ensure that these rights are enforced. And figuring out how to respond not only defensively but proactively against the expansion of the American deportation regime is something that we must do in coalition. So it's great, it's necessary that this is a sanctuary campaign bringing together immigrant and trans safety like what we're doing here today. We at TRUE have been so glad to speak with so many people today, and we want to invite you to come along to a Know Your Rights training that we're holding directed at this question of the dangers faced by international students on April 7th. This is open to the wider community. As we've seen, these abductions happen on the street. And so please come to our table if you want to learn any more.
All right, next up we have our comrades of Socialist Alternative.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out today. My name is Forrest Fleischer and I'm a member of Socialist Alternative in Baltimore. The rights of trans people are under attack. There have been over 1,000 anti-trans bills put forward in state legislators in the last few years, targeting across the bathrooms, gender-affirming care, particularly for minors, rules around self-identification, and access to appropriate sports teams. Even here in Maryland, typically considered a safe state, we are seeing public school systems create two sex education paths, one teaching genders and one not. There are even counties that have completely banned the pride flag or pride symbols from the schools altogether. A clear erasure of the LGBTQ community. This is not new, and it's certainly intentional. In 2024, the Trump campaign spent millions on creating ads, creating fear around trans folks. And now everyday folks in the trans community live that reality, wondering what will be taken from them next. Healthcare bans are forcing trans youth into irreversible and unwanted pubertal changes to their bodies. Men's bathrooms are not a safe place for transgender women, and these attacks on bathroom access are eerily reminiscent of segregation, whipping up transphobia and hate crimes. But this isn't just Trump and his conservative cronies who are scapegoating the trans community. Biden dropped what was already a half-hearted protection of trans athletes, then blocked a bill to fund healthcare for transgender children of military service members as some of the last act of his acts in 2024. But now the Democratic Party is tacking even further to the right and blaming their resounding defeat for being too woke. And since Trump's win and transition to power, a Democratic senator in New York was quoted saying, "I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but I don't think biological boys should be playing in girls' sports." Neither Democrats or Republicans on a national or local scale are here to serve the issues of the working class. And the rights of trans folks are issues of the working class. These divide and rule tactics are key tools of a capitalist system in crisis. Both ruling class parties are willing to wield transphobia, xenophobia, racism, and sexism to divide the working class. Which is why it's urgent we resist these transphobic laws and link this fight with other struggles like stopping the immigrant deportation, fighting for affordable housing, good union jobs, and public health care. Socialist Alternative stands unequivocally with the rights of trans people, for one's right to self-identify their gender, to use the bathroom corresponding to that identity, to play on the appropriate sports teams, and to have full access to gender-affirming care, including for trans youth. For the large number of people in our schools, healthcare facilities, and workplaces who oppose these rights, it needs to be made clear that attacks on trans people are intended to drive down the resources and strength of all working class people. Fighting for a socialist world and not just reforming our current society is the way forward to win a better world for everyone. Fight for solidarity and it will come with the rest. Our unions need to stand up against all attacks on union members. They need to fight all manifestations of racism, sexism, queerphobia, and all forms of oppression as part of the struggle to rebuild a fighting labor movement. These things can be achieved, but we cannot hesitate as the moment is now. Teachers' unions need to take up organized non-compliance against laws targeting trans youth and faculty. Nurses' unions need to take a stand against policies intended to harm trans patients and our healthcare system as a whole. This organization should also include the protection of immigrants who use the same school system and health services. A member of Socialist Alternative in Pittsburgh, who was a trans woman letter carrier, just last year won a struggle at her own workplace, who had to fight to use the restroom of her choice rather than a proposed porta-pot. She is part of the Letter Carriers Union, NALC, and the BFN caucus, fighting for a 2-year expired contract. Trans women are the top targets of bullying by management in so many workplaces. But she united her coworkers by being clear that an injury to one is an injury to all. Standing together with coworkers against abusive management was needed to protect her right to use the bathroom of her choice. But it also demonstrated what will be needed to fight back against any attacks by the bosses and win a strong contract. We urgently need to build a fight back, including strikes and walkouts to fight Trump's attacks on trans folks, but also his agenda of war, deportation, oppression, and bailouts for billionaires. The time to organize, protest, and strike against the whole system and fight all forms of racism, sexism, scapegoating of immigrants, and fear-mongering of trans people is now. Join Socialist Alternative and organize and fight for a socialist world. We're right over there. Stop by.
Next up, we have our comrade Joel from GBDSA to talk about the Right to Strike Alliance.
When I say union, you say power. Ready? Union! Power! Union! Power! Union! Power! Hey everyone, my name is Joel. I am a proud member of the Greater Baltimore DSA. Yeah. I'm also a proud member of the Baltimore Teachers Union and a high school teacher at Western High School on Falls Road. I'm here to talk to you about the Maryland Right to Strike Alliance. We are a rank and file network of unionists across the state in the public sector and in the private sector. We also have non-union workers and community members as part of our coalition as well. Many of you might not know that despite being a state run by Democrats, public sector workers in Maryland do not have the right to strike. Which, yes, it is a shame, because as you've heard today, while we have Republicans and fascists at the federal level burning our departments and slashing government services, Democrats are doing the same thing in Maryland. Boo, yeah. So a big reason that Democrats can get away with this is because our public sector workers, who are the providers of these services, don't have the tools that they need to fight back, which is the right to strike. So without that, we can't defend the services that our communities rely on. We can't fight back when ICE tries to enter our schools. We can't fight back in the ways that we need to fight back if we don't have that strike weapon. So what we're working on is twofold: get that bullshit law repealed. Yeah. But even more importantly, I think, is begin to change the culture and minds of our fellow unionists and our union leadership, especially around having the right to strike. Strike is not a dirty word, it's a beautiful word. We should be talking about it all the time. Yeah. So, but we need to get that conversation started. So if you're interested in making striking sexy again in Maryland, join us. We have a table over there. We need all the help that we can get. Thank you.
All right, next up we have our comrade Peter from Apartheid-Free Baltimore.
Yep, sorry everyone. I'm not Peter, I'm Sahil. Also from Apartheid-Free Baltimore. With GBDSA. Alright, so first off, I want to take a moment to recognize Land Day, which is today a day to recognize the theft and destruction of Palestinian land. So I'd like everyone to just take a moment of silence for that. Okay, so what I'm here today to tell you is that Palestine matters. Palestinians matter. They matter for so many reasons. The most important and the simplest one is that they are full human beings. Whether they're in Gaza, the West Bank, or refugees throughout the world, Palestinians matter. But with the distance, it can be hard to see that mattering to our daily lives, but it matters to that too. It matters when we see, as so many of our comrades have pointed out, ICE agents kidnapping students for protesting the Israeli regime. It matters when Baltimore Police Department works with the Israeli military to get tactics that they use to oppress us here in Baltimore. And it matters when our money goes toward furthering the ends of Zionism and colonialism. So that's what our campaign is, Apartheid-Free Baltimore. It's part of the international Boycott, Divest, and Sanction campaign and the related national No Appetite for Apartheid campaign. It's not, we haven't quite launched it yet, but we will very soon. We're just putting the finishing touches. The idea is that we are going to work with businesses and work with people in the city to get Zionist products off of our shelves and to support businesses and restaurants who are willing to take a stand against genocide. All right, I think that's it. Free Palestine!
We're going to take one more 5-minute intermission to mingle, chat about the things we just heard, and then we're going to be back with our comrades from Gleason.
So is that
I'm chronically off. I definitely have like my top. I think like I get like pasta. I might look at the I think because I think that was one where it's like, hey, listen, I'm literally studying.
Everybody, we have our speakers from Gleason here.
I'm not currently working in a library, but I'm studying in a library.
Thank you everybody for coming on back. We appreciate you all being here. We go by Hope. We are here with GLSEN. GLSEN is the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. We help provide safe spaces and affirming literature in K-12 schools so that when those kids are there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in school, well, they might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about why we are here. And what we want to ask you is why you are here. Why are you here? Are you here for yourself? Are you advocating on your own behalf? Are you here for your friends? Are you here for your family? Are you here for your community? Are you here for your world?
Yeah.
It's okay, because all of those answers are wonderful. If you start by advocating for yourself, then you can use that power to reach out to those around you. If you start because someone you know is being affected by the policies of this administration, then you can use that energy to uplift everyone around you. If you have someone in your family, it gives you the drive you need to pursue action.
Yeah.
Whatever your why, hold it close to your heart. Keep it together throughout everything that is happening and nurture it. Let it grow, whether it becomes a blossom or a blaze, and let it drive you to continue the work, because the work is ongoing. Next, we're going to ask you to look to your neighbors. Talk to the people here, talk to the people around you, not just the good folks who are volunteering their time, but also the people who are here and showing up and attending. Learn their why, because their why can help to inform yours. Find commonality between yourself and your neighbor. Anything that is not immediately in common can drive you to address the issues that affect all of us. When one of us cannot breathe, none of us can breathe.
Yeah.
When you have begun to explore your why and the why of those around you, you can ask the next question. How do we do it?
How do you do it, huh? Tell me.
We do what we do through community action. And as we said before, we have close to a dozen wonderful organizations here that will help you find the things that you can do. We know that it is hard, even for the most privileged, to find ways that they can act in service of their community. And when you have things that are working against you, things that are imposed upon you by society, limitations by your body or your expression, things that prevent you from doing some of the most visible actions, working with organizations like those that have attended here are fantastic ways to find other ways to get involved in organizing, in preparing, in stockpiling resources, in learning things like care and speech and praxis. These are the ways we do it, and these folks are the people who can show you how. Show up, listen up, and shore up. We want to thank everyone for attending today. It means so much to see you all out here defending sanctuary, defending each other, and defending yourselves. Thank you so much. Safe travels.
All right, next up we have our comrade Jesse from Jewish Voice for Peace.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you all for coming out today. I'm here on behalf of Jewish Voice for Peace, or JVP Baltimore. So for those of you who don't know, Jewish Voice for Peace is the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. JVP organizes a grassroots, multiracial, cross-class, intergenerational movement of U.S. Jews into solidarity with the Palestinian freedom struggle, guided by a vision of justice, equality, and dignity for all. The Israeli government was clear from the beginning that it never had any intention of adhering to the ceasefire plan. As Israel prepares plans for a full-scale ground invasion and occupation of Gaza, killing hundreds of Palestinians in the week since it unilaterally shattered the ceasefire agreement, its backers in the U.S. are escalating their crackdown on opposition to the U.S.-backed genocide. That's because they're desperate to regain control of a narrative that slipped out of their grasp, as American support for Israel has fallen to a 25-year low. All of this is made possible by the U.S. government, which has funded and fueled these atrocities. Over the past 17 months, the U.S. has spent over $17 billion in military funding to the Israeli government's campaign of extermination and apartheid against the Palestinian people, and continues to sell the Israeli military more weapons. At the same time, across the United States, the Trump regime is targeting student anti-war protesters and disappearing immigrants and permanent residents without due process. The timing is not accidental. As the Israeli government escalates its genocide against Palestinians, the U.S. government escalates unprecedented levels of repression against those trying to stop the atrocities. The blatantly unconstitutional detention of Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Ozturk, and countless others is another step in the far right's plan to target all who oppose their authoritarian agenda. All of these actions are also in service of sharpening the tools that the administration will then use to fully dismantle social justice movements, higher education, and civil liberties. The only way forward is to build a united force against the ascendant far right. It will take all of us. The Trump regime platforms Nazis, white supremacists, and Christian nationalists. It is endangering Jewish people and using the guise of fighting anti-Semitism to dismantle our constitutionally protected rights to free speech and dissent. Trump's brutal executive orders and now kidnapping of students endanger all people, beginning with those most vulnerable and those speaking out for justice. This is how fascism works, and the only defense is to refuse to be divided or silenced. History has shown us that we cannot stand idly by, and we will not. We can't let that work, and we won't. We will not be scared into silence. The U.S.-backed Israeli genocide must end. For decades, queer and trans Jews have been a visible part of the Palestine solidarity struggle, especially here in the United States. It's no coincidence that JVP Baltimore is largely composed of queer and trans Jews. We see trans liberation and Palestinian liberation as inextricably linked, as resistance to the systems of power and control that stem from colonial thinking, white supremacy, and capitalism. At a moment when trans people around the world are under attack from right-wing institutions and politicians, the Palestinians of all genders and sexual identities are resisting Israel's oppression, and we must join together to build safety and justice for all of us. From the U.S. to Palestine, queer and trans people have resisted oppression for decades. While here in the U.S., the trans community stands against the state repression that's dismantling our rights, denying us health care, denying us passports, reversing gender markers on our IDs, banning us from using bathrooms, and much more, queer and trans Palestinians face an even more brutal struggle against apartheid Israel's violent oppression and ongoing Israeli colonial occupation, in addition to ongoing genocide. Now is the time to act. If you're interested in joining JVP or helping us out or learning more about what we're up to right now, feel free to come over to our tent over there. We welcome everybody to come help us fight for a free Palestine. So thank you.
All right, next up we have our comrade Ive, Trans Community Action Baltimore.
I didn't actually realize that was close. All right, here we go.
So, who gave us the right? Who gave the administration the right to make us all fear for our lives, doing basic things? We are all normal people, people with lives that mean something to us, and yet we are singled out. I can speak today. Oh God! And you were singled out. Whatever. Like we're some kind of cancer that needs to be removed. Elon tweeted on March 22nd, his daughter, and although we know what he tried to call her, died to the woke Lyme virus. And now that woke Lyme virus will die, supposedly. I don't know what he could possibly mean by that. Does anybody know? Anyway, then we have Secretary of State Marco Rubio left a memo titled "Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports," which is just ridiculous. And they demand that identification documents match sex assigned at birth or risk their ineligibility for visas if their misrepresentation is material. Do you all really trust the Trump administration to judge what is properly material misrepresentation of our birth sex? When we should? No. Why should we? And all I'm trying to say here is that, we've got all these things going on. ICE is attacking people with green cards now. Probably were doing it before, but now they're really doing it aggressively. And I just have to say, I have my significant other in Lithuania, and I was going to bring her over here to marry her and have a wonderful relationship with her. But now I'm terrified. It's funny because she used to be terrified herself of coming over here, and I was like, oh, but it just depends on where you go. No, not anymore. You're an immigrant, particularly a trans immigrant. I don't even want to think about what you're dealing with right now, barrier-wise. And all that is to say, we have a lot of shit going on right now. A lot of bullshit, and I'm quite tired of it, and I am so tired of it, I moved from my state, Florida, to here to meet all of you all about a year ago. And I want to say that I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. I want to meet everyone else here and have friendships and organize and play in ways that I just never did in Florida. And that's what our group is about. It's a very recent group. It's called Trans Community Action Baltimore. Just recently changed that name from Trans Baltimore Collective. I don't know if you've seen that kind of thing. And it's a group of mostly trans people, although there are a few allies there, that have been meeting for the past few months. We've got a surprisingly big turnout for how new we are, at least in person. And we've broken into little subgroups that were meant to just hang out and form connections with people, because a lot of us are refugees from red states, and I want to know everyone around me and see what's around here and get involved. And that's the second part of it. So the first part of what we do is community, getting trans people to meet other trans people and allies who could support them through, surgery or anything like that. Or just have social outings, like you want to have travel or hiking groups or running groups or something like that. We have little small groups trying to break into. And then for the second part, we have getting people involved in organizing, especially for people like me who are just sick and tired of the bullshit. I remember I was just in Florida. They were calling me demons and imps. Demons and imps. Why am I? It's just very frustrating, and I want to put that fear, that energy that I fear, bringing my significant other over here and having to move myself into something actionable. And so we want to provide trans people, and since this is about trans people, generally, and immigrants, of course, too, that space to meet people and talk to people and try to help out and try to, put them in the right place and give them friends. You know what I mean? And that's the point of our group. But if you wish to talk with us, I'm happy to put you in. We are currently setting up, I believe, an Instagram and a Blue Sky, so we can, more effectively do that. We supposedly meet monthly and then probably bi-weekly by virtual. We have a Discord chat. I mean, you could ask me for that link too if you wish to join it, and come hang out with us and try to get involved. We have a couple other people. I think there was someone representative of Trans Maryland there. We had a couple therapists there. It's that kind of group. You know what I mean? All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
One thing I just want to highlight real fast. Trans people, especially trans women, face like extremely escalated risk of incarceration. I think it's like 50%. Trans women, like especially Black and Indigenous trans women and Two-Spirit people, are very frequently incarcerated. Most of this country houses trans women with men and uses withholding HRT and access to their health care against them. Whoa. Most trans women incarcerated in men's prisons are sexually trafficked in a system called V-coding, where they get essentially used as currency to pay off inmates to help manipulate the socio-political landscape for the guards. It's really fucking bad. We have this catastrophe right now where the few trans women in federal prisons who are held with women, as they should be, are being moved to men's prisons. The few, very small percent, were ever given that opportunity, and now it's being revoked. We have states like Florida who have made it official policy to forcibly detransition and to force trans women into conversion therapy. And that's going to be happening all over the country. In Maryland, most trans women are kept in men's prisons, or best case scenario, in isolation. I got arrested at a protest on October 14th, I think it was, in DC. I got held in DC jails for 26 hours. It was fucking brutal. It was constant, harsh and stupid harassment. At one point, cis women guards at the District 2 jail that I was initially quarantined in put on "I Feel Like a Natural Woman" to try to fuck with us. It was really stupid, and it was violent. I just want everybody, we don't really have a Black and Pink chapter around here, but we do have a lot of groups here who are working on this front of connecting with incarcerated trans women. We have the Trans Rights Advocacy Coalition, which we, the Trans Rights of Bodily Autonomy Working Group at GBDSA, are part of, doing a lot of trying to find and meet trans people in the Maryland prison system, and that's something, since we don't really have an org here officially speak on that, I want that to be in everybody's hearts. That's something we need to fucking address. It's bad. So finally, I'm going to have our comrade Barbara come talk about this campaign that everybody's here for, and to talk a bit about what we're going to be doing going forward. And yeah.
I ad-libbed completely at the end there. You could probably tell because I put my phone away. If anything, it's just being...
I should have sat closer to the mic. That's true, but let me move so I don't fall in, because it's not in my way. We have had a lot of really good people coming up here to speak today on a lot of really good topics. We've heard about the fights going on in Maryland from our representative to protect our immigrant populations. We've heard about the fights going on to divest Maryland from genocide. We've heard a lot. Tomorrow is Trans Day of Visibility. When we were getting started with this campaign, we were thinking we would focus it on trans people, bring in everyone else, because We saw our attacks on our community coming with the election. And then everything hit. We saw them attack the immigrant populations. We've already heard, they're grabbing people with green cards, moving them between states without due process, shipping them to El Salvador to do forced labor. I've heard just today that on Friday they dissolved federal unions. Am I hearing that correctly? Yeah. That's what I was hearing earlier. Shame.
Shame, super shame.
They are attacking everyone. And none of us, they think they can get away with it because none of us are a majority. They go, oh, trans people, 1% of the population. Immigrants, 10%, 20%. Unionists, 10%. But when you start adding up all these percents, we are the majority. And that's what Sanctuary Maryland is about. If we get everyone together, all of our different communities working together, there are more than enough of us to make sure that we can protect ourselves from federal intervention, protect ourselves from Democrats who would sell out the working class, just protect ourselves from everyone. So I have a couple asks I want to give everyone. Number one, I would very much appreciate if you come down to the GBDSA tent. We have these little quarter sheets that have a QR code for our campaign. That will be where you can get hooked into all of our events moving forward. Number two, I want you to go around, if you haven't already, talk to all these organizations, because no one has enough strength or capability to do everything, but everyone can do something. And these people can hook you up with what you can do. And number three, I know that for every person I know who's here, there are at least 4 or 5 people who couldn't be here, either because they're working, they're down in DC for the ACLU rally, or they have questions about their documentation status right now and don't want to risk getting rounded up by ICE. So take this back to your communities, take this back to your workplaces. Everyone that you know who isn't here, plug them in. When you're going around to tables, if you go, oh, JVP, I know people who aren't here who would be interested in JVP. Get an extra flyer, get it to your people who know. If they're interested in, if you think they'd be into DSA, get a flyer, let them know. Because the more of us there are, the better our chances. My father is unfortunately a fascist, but he did say one thing that I want to reference. He said that nothing happens but that people get together and work for it. So let's get to work.
So that's everybody we have on our list. If there's anybody that has anything to plug, if you're part of an organization that's like doing this work, if you have something coming up, even if you're not in that org but you want people to know about it, I'm going to open the mic. You're welcome to come plug it.
Get out around the sun.